Welcome to the ninth stop on our 1989 Formula One Grand Prix Tour. Today from Hockenheim, West Germany. It's a country rich in beauty, as well as rich in automotive history. In 1886, two Germans, Gottlieb Daimler and Karl Benz, developed a successful gasoline engine, an early cousin of the one used in automobiles today. Benz installed his in a three-wheel carriage. This new contraption called the automobile was so new and strange, early models were shown only in circuses. But today, our love affair with the car continues, and West Germany is a leader in automobile production. Mercedes, Volkswagen, BMW, Opel, and Audi are all manufactured in this country. Well, the circus is back in town, but there'll be no clowning around today. So is the Formula One circus, with just plenty of pure horsepower. This is the famous Hockenheim Ring near Heidelberg, West Germany, site of the 1989 German Grand Prix. For 37 years, there has been a Grand Prix in the country of Germany. It's been held at 3 different racetracks over the years, but for the 13th time today here at Hockenheim Ring. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to the German Grand Prix. We're above a packed grandstand here at Hockenheim as the fans get set for the start of the Formula One race. Now, we do have a support race going on, so you will hear the cars go behind us in just a few moments. Your regular host for Formula One telecast, Bob Varsha, is on another assignment. He'll be with us later this afternoon here on ESPN for an IMSA race from Portland International Raceway. Well, the McLarens have been dominating Formula One all year long. However, in other events, we've seen a tightening of the grid. That is, other teams catching up with the McLarens. Not so this afternoon. David Hobbs is with me in the booth today, and David, the McLarens are well ahead of everybody else.
Well, Bob, with the relatively simple layout here at Hockenheim, straight line top speed is of absolutely paramount importance, and it demonstrates once again that Honda have got the power to punch these cars through the air at much more velocity than anybody else. That's some of their advantage. But it also demonstrates the awesome ability of Ayrton Senna to qualify. Everybody's running as little wing as they can get away with here because of the high top speed requirement, but they do have to go round corners, and the cars are very twitchy and unstable. And old Senna managed to crank out a lap a full second quicker than his teammate Alan Prost, who in turn is 0.7 of a second quicker than Nigel Mansell. So it just shows how fantastic Senna is in qualifying. However, top line speed is not everything in a race. They do have to go around the corners, and with more on that aspect of the race, let's go down to John Bizignano of the pits. John?
Well, thank you, David. And actually, it's these very long Hockenheim Ring straightaways and very abrasive turns at this circuit that eat the F1 tires alive. When talking to Lee Gogg, Managing Director of International Motorsports for Goodyear, he has told me that for sure there will be one pit stop made by every team, and there is the potential that all the cars gathered together could reach some 50 pit stops total here at the Hockenheim Ring. Now, that raises a concern due to the fact that this is the smallest pit lane left on the Grand Prix Championship trail. It's extremely narrow and therefore extremely dangerous. The team managers, the drivers, and for sure the mechanics are absolutely frightened about the potential of some 50 total pit stops during an hour-and-a-half race. There's going to be one heck of a lot of excitement here in the pit lane at the Hockenheim Ring. You know, Bob Jenkins, it's nice to have you back at a Grand Prix.
Thanks, John. It's nice to be back with you guys again on Formula One telecast, and especially to visit the country of West Germany. Unfortunately, there's just too much to see in the short time that we're here. Our Speed World coverage of the German Grand Prix is being brought to you by Quake from Hockenheim Ring. To Hockenheim Ring in West Germany, where we're standing by for the start of the 37th German Grand Prix. Now, there will be no cigarette advertising that you will see today. The country of West Germany forbids that, and so you will not be seeing the familiar Camel logo on the cars. You can see the letters have been blocked out on all Camel advertising here. You'll also not be seeing any Marlboro here at the German Grand Prix today, and of course no West, Barclay, and Giton, some of the European cigarettes. Now, the weather here at Germany, 82 degrees. We have partly cloudy skies. There's a 60% humidity and about a 40% chance of rain. The weatherman overnight was saying there was about a 70% chance of rain today, but conditions have improved since that time. Now let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's German Grand Prix here at Hockenheim Ring. Starting on the pole will be Brazilian Ayrton Senna in the McLaren. It's the defending world champion, 7th pole in 9 races so far during the 1989 season. Then Alain Prost, his teammate, who starts in the 2nd position. Prost leads the world points by 20 over Senna. Nigel Mansell is 3rd on the grid. He's from Great Britain in one of the Ferraris, and his teammate Gerhard Berger is next in the other Ferrari. Riccardo Patrese will start in the Williams, and alongside him will be his teammate Thierry Boutsen, winner of the Canadian Grand Prix earlier this year. Going 7th on the grid is the Benetton Ford with Italian Alessandro Nannini, and 8th is the only 3-time winner at this racetrack, Brazilian Nelson Piquet. Starting in 9th position will be Emmanuel Pirro in the Benetton, and in 10th is John Alesi in a Tyrrell. In 11th position, Oliver Grouillard in the Ligier, and Martin Brundle starts 12th in the Brabham. Starting in 13th position, the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini, and 14th is the March Judd driven by Mauricio Gugelmin. 15th starting position belongs to Philippe Alliot in the Lola Lamborghini. Stefano Modena in the Brabham starts 16th. In the 17th position, it's Derek Warwick in an Arrows, and Satoru Nakajima in the Lotus starts in 18th position. Dr. Jonathan Palmer in a Tyrrell goes from 19th, and Alex Caffey in a Dallara in 20th position. His teammate Andrea De Cesaris starts in 21st position. Ivan Capelli in the March goes from 22nd. Rene Arnoux in a Ligier is 23rd. Starting in 24th position, Stefan Johansson in the Onyx. Eddie Cheever in the Arrows is 25th, and in 26th starting position, Michele Alboreto in one of the Lolas. Now, looking at those who were unable to make the race today, Luis Perez-Sala failed to make it, so did Bertrand Gachot, Christian Danner, and Volker Weidler. Those who failed to make pre-qualifying include Dalmas, Larini, Tarquini, Genzani, Moreno, Raphael, Wojtek, Suzuki, and Schneider, all those failing to make the pre-qualifying. Now let's take a look specifically at this Hockenheim ring course. Here is David Hobbs.
Hockenheim ring is 4.223 miles around, and it's relatively simple as racetracks go. There's the chicane, the first chicane, the east curve, the second chicane. Then the next group of curves, the Adjip, the Sachs, the Fiam, and the Opel curve, are all set within the stadium area of this circuit. Let's go on a lap now with Nigel Mansell as he streams past the pits, breaks down for turn 1, and accelerates out into the countryside, going up to 7th gear on his Ferrari, the V12 Ferrari having, of course, 7 gears to everyone else's 6. Right here in qualifying, he reaches about 202, 203 miles an hour as he streaks between these thickly forested slopes. Down into the first chicane. As you'll see here, he uses a bit of the road, all the road, and a bit more, bumping up on those curves. Now he accelerates back up to top speed. Look at the fingers of his right hand as he flicks that electronic gear shift up into 7th gear. Again, very, very close here to 200 miles an hour. Now coming to the east curve. And here's where you need to be pretty brave as he flicks that car to that extremely narrow gap. Now the rest of the east curve, this long, long right-hander, tremendous loading on the car, back up to 7th gear and just under 200 miles an hour, still in that thickly forested area. Coming up to the second chicane, on the brakes, down to 3rd, over the curve again, up and over the curve again. Nigel using all the road here. This turned out to be his 2nd fastest lap of the weekend yesterday afternoon at about 147 miles an hour. Coming into the stadium now. The Adjip curve, down to 3rd, swings right, accelerates, up to 4th. Right in front of nearly 100,000 people sit in this stadium. To the Sachs curve, down to 2nd, up to 3rd. Hangs on to 3rd here. Brakes down to 2nd. Accelerates across this very short straight here. Turns right onto pit road. And Nigel Mansell completes that lap at a 1 minute 44 and change second, about 147 miles an hour.
High-speed trip around the 2nd longest course on the Formula One circuit, Spa being the longest Hockenheim ring. Now let's go down to the pit area and get the pre-race comments and situations from pit road. John Bisognano.
Well, Bob, it's actually a very good situation for most of the teams down here. The grid is in amazingly good shape. To update you on some people, after the morning warm-up, Ayrton Senna had an oil leak towards the back of the car. Now remember that one of his DNF recently was due to a gearbox failure, so they're very heavily actually looking at the back of that car. They say it is fixed. Alain Prost, he had some handling problems, which you certainly don't want here at the Hockenheimring. They think that it's solved, but they really don't know. Ferrari Mansell almost wiped out his Ferrari during warm-up with a spin with Stefan Johansson. All they did was change the tires. They said the suspension was okay. Berger's car, they were working on it furiously down there. They were checking every bit of electrics, but we couldn't get exactly the information out of them. Watch him for possible misfire right at the beginning of this race. The only person in a spare car is the Lotus of Piquet. He did have a terrible misfire in the just going around to try and come on the grid. He is in the spare car. Both Williams, they are complaining of straight line speed, which is probably the biggest problem you could have here in Hockenheimring. Ivan Capelli right out here next to me. He says he's ready to go, but they are certainly having some electrical problems and have changed all the plugs and the black box on that car. Right now, all the Goodyear boys are starting on the harder compound B Goodyears. They are still planning a lot of pit action. You'll see them in the pits for the first time between laps 16 and 20.
All right, thank you, John. That's the report from pit road, just moments away from the start of the German Grand Prix. We'll be back for a start of this event in just a moment, and as we go to break, there are the pick six from the three of us, the veterans, David and John, picking Senna and Prost 1-2. I'm going on a limb and saying that Alain Prost will win this race and Mansell will be second. And we'll be right back in just a moment. Lap is underway, and we're just a few moments away now from the green flag.
There we see the two McLarens assuming their position to head. Senna rushing off down the road in front of Alain Prost, who's taking a much more conservative approach to this. The two Ferraris weaving along there, putting some heat in the tires. Of course, all these cars had tire warmers on in the pit, so the tires are up to temperature. Sometimes these pace laps can be just the opposite to what they're supposed to do. And in fact, the tires cool off from when they take the warmers off the tires in the pits.
This track first hosted a World Championship race back in 1970, and as we said earlier, this is the 13th time that they have been at this particular facility for a Formula One race. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on the McLarens. They're using the transverse gearbox once again, and so that could spell some problems for them. Now, as far as McLaren and Formula One wins are concerned, 21 of the last 24 races have been won by McLaren. 29 of Prost's 38 victories have come in that chassis. 11 of Senna's 17 have. 15 wins by a team in a season. 8 the most wins by a driver in a season. That, of course, held by Senna. And 15 pole positions, the most in a season.
Not a bad little record, all in all. And there we see those two McLarens as they come down. Plenty of advertising propaganda here, but as you said earlier, no cigarette. All the cars now really weaving about, trying to put some heat into their tires before they come into the stadium. The two lead cars on these pace laps, of course. There's Senna just trying them up through the gearbox as he goes through the third chicane. The two lead cars don't really want to get there too soon before everybody else, because then they have that awful weight while the rest of the field packs up behind them.
Now, you notice those blocks there. Those are not made out of anything solid. Those are styrofoam, so when a car does hit it, it's not going to be a real terrible situation. We have seen a couple of cars go through them already during the weekend.
But it is incredibly spectacular when the styrofoam spreads itself all over this rather luscious German countryside.
All weekend long, as they have tried to dial this onboard camera in, we have just been getting some unbelievable shots, and we're now in Nigel Mansell's Ferrari, and they promised to give us some real exciting pictures from this high-speed race course. And there now is the onboard camera on Gerhard Berger's car. Both Ferraris carrying the cameras here this weekend.
And as you can see, his teammate right in front of him. It's quite amazing how this grid, in fact, went absolutely 2 by 2. 2 McLarens, 2 Ferraris, 2 Williams, and it would have been an all Benetton third row, but right at the end of qualifying yesterday afternoon, Nelson Piquet stuck his nose in there and pushed Emmanuel Pirot down a row, but all 2 by 2 here.
Into the stadium area where the majority of the spectators are, and you can see that the stands are absolutely filled here as the Germans take their racing very seriously. The stands are full, and they are just about to see the start of the German Grand Prix. Senna takes his position on the grid. Right behind him is Alain Prost. Now Senna moving up to his position. Will will he break the streak of not scoring any points in the last 4 races? He finds himself 20 points behind Alain Prost in the battle for the World Championship as we begin the second half of the season. The cars now begin to grid themselves on the main straightaway here, and one of the most exciting moments in all of motorsports coming up, the standing start that begins Formula One competition. The field, 26 cars strong.
The first corner coming up for them is a right-hander, and it's slightly strange to see Pole Senna on the left-hand side of the road. It gives him a better slingshot, but if Prost can get alongside him, of course, he would take the corner. Safety cars pull up behind him.
Just moments away now from the start. Green is displayed at the back of the field. And the green light goes on, and the German Grand Prix 1989 style is underway in a car off course already. One of the Lolas has gone off course and spins around as the rest of the field moves into corner number 1.
That is Philippe Alliot in the Lola Lamborghini. And here at the front, one of the Ferraris must have made a demon start there. Of course, they have been tremendous this year with that semi-automatic gearbox, and the extra gear has really helped them away from the line on a number of times.
A lot of cars sparking as they go down the course.
Of course, at this stage, they're all full of fuel, carrying about 190 to 200 litres, depending on the engine configuration. As heavy as they're going to get all day, and those are the titanium grounding strips just striking along the track there, making all those incredible sparks.
Through the first chicane, Ayrton Senna has the lead. Battle for second position. Prost takes it away. So we have the McLarens first and second. They didn't get into the first corner that way, but now, as we near the end of the first half lap, we do see the McLarens up front as the rest of the field passes through. Senna is leading with Alain Prost running in second spot. Gerhard Berger third, then comes Nigel Mansell, the 5 car of Thierry Boutsen behind them.
And right behind him is Emmanuel Pirot in the first of the Benettons, leading his more experienced teammate Alessandro Nannini. A lot of people expecting the new Ford Benetton combination to do very well on this high-speed circuit. Ford have got more power out of that engine. It's a smaller unit, and of course the new Benetton's a very successful chassis on its debut 2 weeks ago in Paul Ricard. And last week, Nannini went very, very well in that car.
Into the stadium, through Sachs Curve. Field moving quickly. Philippe Alliot spinning off course just as the green came out. Let's go down to John Bisognano for a report on what happened.
We were standing right there when Alliot took evasive action, and that's exactly what it was. Someone in front of him looked like they missed a gear, and he went hard left out into the grass to avoid him. It was actually some very good driving on the Frenchman's part.
So Alliot back in competition after that spin off course at the very start of the race, but no other car was involved in it. And so as we move into the chicane for the second time,
Senna getting himself a bit out of shape. That's the first chicane.
Just a little bit sideways.
Pirot has given up a place to Nannini, followed by Patrese.
Nelson Piquet moving through in the Lotus.
And, of course, Eddie Cheever there moving through. And there's Michele Alboreto. What a disappointing debut for him in his Lamborghini Lola drive. Alboreto had been living dangerously all weekend, just getting in through the pre-qualifying by 1/1000th of a second and making the grid itself by 1500ths. And there we see the 2 leaders again.
His first ride with the Lola outfit ends very early for Michele Alboreto.
Lotus of Piquet there going through the 2 Brabhams. Gugelmin right behind them. Capelli, his teammate, not having a good weekend at all, and looking from the way the race has started so far. Nannini giving Thierry Boutsen a hard go as they go into the stadium there. There's Gugelmin, there's Derek Warwick in the Arrows. Alex Caffey, followed by one of the Lotus, Nakajima.
There's Eddie Cheever in the Arrows. Stefan Johansson in the Onyx, the only Onyx to make the field for the German Grand Prix. So it is Ayrton Senna leading over Alain Prost and Gerhard Berger in the early stages of the German Grand Prix. We'll be right back. Back at the a German Grand Prix, and you're riding alongside Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari as he runs in 4th position. Just ahead is his teammate Gerhard Berger. Ahead of Berger is Alain Prost, and the leader of the race, Ayrton Senna.
And this will give you a good idea of how those sparks come up from the cars in front as they strike the ground with those titanium striker plates. Coming down into the Ost curve, this is a pretty mind-blowing piece of road here. They slip right. The curve there on the left, they just clip it, and if they just bounce off that curve, straight to that wall on the right, through the rest of the curve. Very tough on the suspension. And then another long straight. And there you see the cars. You can get an idea of how straight these are.
Let's go back just a few moments ago and take a look at the start of the race once again. Now watch on the right side of your screen. You will see a car go off course into the grass and spinning around. There it is right now.
It looked like he was behind one of the Minardis.
Now we have a car off the course.
Alex Caffey.
That's one of the Dallaras. Alex Caffey is out of the race in the early going on lap number 3.
Looks like it's damaged. That's down at one of the chicanes. I'm not sure, but it looks a bit like it might be the Ost curve.
Senna continues to lead. There is Prost right behind him as the McLarens have now separated themselves away from the Ferraris just a little bit.
Prost, of course, this year driving with a very, very new verve the last 2 races since he decided to leave McLaren and Ayrton Senna. And since then, his driving seems to have improved enormously. He won the French, he won the British Grand Prix. He was a bit lucky because in both cases Senna gave up. But on the other hand, he was driving super well at both tracks. And a lot of people expecting Alain Prost to put a lot of pressure on his teammate Ayrton Senna here at Hockenheim this afternoon.
We noticed that Alessandro Nannini had passed Thierry Boutsen and moved up into 5th position that time by. There are the Ferraris.
There's Nannini.
There's Nannini.
And it looks as if Boutsen's coming under pressure now from Nannini's teammate Pirro in the other new Ford engine Benetton. And there behind him, of course, is Riccardo Patrese in the second of the 2 Renault Williams. On the last 56 races, here's how things shake out. Alain Prost, 17 wins. Senna with 15. Nigel Mansell has 12 victories. Nelson Piquet, 7. Gerhard Berger, 4. And Thierry Boutsen, 1. That's in the last 56 Formula One events. So Thierry Boutsen, definitely the odd man out amongst that group. The scene from Gerhard Berger as he sees the 2 McLarens disappear into the stadium ahead of him. Up and over the curve there a bit.
You can see the interval between now, first and second, and the 3rd place Boutsen, rather the Berger car, the Ferrari. Nigel Mansell in 4th position and will ride with him as he crosses the line.
You can see his fingers flicking on the wheel there. The gear shift is made easier for these Ferrari guys, but they had some reliability problems. But just listen to that V12 from his viewpoint. The time gap goes to the same. Very easy to deceive yourself at slow corners that you're actually catching the guy in front up, but the time gap remains the same. It's just that when you're doing 190, it's a lot more on the road than it is at the hairpin.
You can see Berger's car sparking ahead.
Ooh. The suspension taking a real pounding as they go over that curve. You can see his fingers, his right hand there for the upshift, his left hand, which we can't see, is what takes care of the downshift. The other advantage the Ferrari have with the 7-speed gearbox, as you can hear when he goes into 7th and top, it's a very little rev drop between 6th and 7th, which means the engine stays right up on the power all the time.
So Senna continues to lead, hounded by Alain Prost. They have been running 1st and 2nd since about the first half lap.
Now, everybody here that's leading this race is going to have to be a little bit careful of their tires, because as John Bisignano told us earlier on, most of these drivers are getting up Thierry Boutsen out of yet another Grand Prix.
Thierry Boutsen, an early retiree. So we have seen several cars fall out here just in the first 5 laps. The latest, Thierry Boutsen in the Williams Renault. So he makes the long walk back to the pit area. He was running in 6th position when the car dropped out of competition. Now they move into the forest once again. Senna and Prost, followed by Berger and Mansell.
Now you can see how this road sweeps around, and as they break into these chicanes, they're going through the corners, so the cars are very edgy because of the lack of downforce that they're all trying to run here to maintain high speeds on these long straights. And it makes breaking into these tight chicanes a bit of a tricky proposition, and of course makes the car very light and jumpy through the chicanes, and tough on tires. So they have to drive. They don't seem to be worrying about the chicane much, too, those two Ferraris. They jump right over that inside curve.
They sure do. They use every bit of the racetrack and then some to get through. McLarens and the Ferraris, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then back in 5th position, we have the Benetton of Nannini.
Oh, another yellow flag. What's happened there? Anything serious? Can't see it. I think we've got in 5th and 6th, I think we've probably got the 2 Benettons now, with Boutsen going out.
Yeah, with Boutsen's retirement, Nannini would probably be 5th and Pirro in 6th position, then Patrese and the other Williams.
So this is becoming the Noah race of West Germany as they go 2 by 2 around this 4.2-mile track.
The Brazilian Ayrton Senna followed closely by Prost. Here come the Ferraris through. That's Nigel Mansell running in 4th spot. And you can see how they have certainly run off and hid from everybody else.
All the tires look okay on what we're seeing so far. Very often you can see telltale black or darker black marks appearing on the tires. We're in again with Nigel Mansell as he goes down towards the first chicane through these trees. Of course, just 21 years ago, these trees claimed the life of the legendary Jimmy Clark, and of course that was before the days of guardrail, and he had some sort of a mishap. No one knows exactly what.
Let's go to John Bisignano.
Alessandro Nannini from Italy, he came in shaking his head and beating on the steering wheel as they removed the engine cover on the lap. He had a horrific engine fault, more than 1 cylinder. We will get an actual report back as we have the information.
All right, thank you, John. A little bit of breakup of John's microphone, but it's an engine misfire that has set Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton in for an early pit stop. Nannini was running in 5th position. Back with more right after this from Hockenheim. How could Eddie Cheever forget that the first car he had was a Ferrari Dino, right?
Absolutely. And of course, I noticed Christian Danner's first car was a BMW.
Yeah.
Poor chap. There we see Emmanuel Pirro now lying in 5th spot. Not bad for only his 3rd ever Grand Prix, although he has done many, many miles of testing in Formula One.
He, of course, test driver for McLaren before joining this team for Formula One ride. We're still seeing the first 4 up front. It is Senna and Prost, followed by Berger and Nigel Mansell. But the McLarens have not run off and hide from the Ferraris. It's still a pretty good race.
And Senna is certainly not running away and hiding from Alain Prost either.
Whoop. Let's go to the pit area and John Bisignano, who can update us on the Nannini situation. John?
The pictures you're seeing are about as close as you want to get to a pit stop of this type. They are changing both black boxes. You see at the top of the engine bay, they are changing that black box. The black box is the engine management system that controls all the electrics. They are changing another type of black box to the bottom part of the car. I'm afraid I don't know exactly the function of that one. We will find out. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9 people working on this car trying to get Alessandro Nannini back in the hunt as soon as possible.
He's been in the pits quite a while, however, but work continues on that car to get it back in competition.
There There we see the two Ferraris just going out of the picture, and now on the picture is Nigel Mansell following his teammate Gerhard Berger, but also out of the picture, which unfortunately is no control of us, down in 8th spot, or rather in 10th spot through 14th spot. There's only less than 2 seconds covers those cars, so there's a lot of arguing going on with those midfield runners. There we see Nigel catching up Gerhard Berger. They go through that tight chicane, but losing out as they pick up speed again. Coming down to my favorite corner now, the east curve, which has this horrendously narrow chicane entry to it. Over the curve, both of them. And you can see how the corner tightens up and really puts some strain on the left front tyre in particular, and in fact the left rear. Those are the two tyres that are really going to take the pounding here today.
But then on the accelerator, and speeds reaching over 200 miles an hour.
They reach 200 in about 3 places on this track. In fact, these are the only 4 cars so far that have reached 200, although I think Emmanuel Pirot reached 200 this morning in the warm-up. Everybody else is running in the 197 range.
So even with this wide shot, long shot that we have from camera well above the racetrack, that gives us a overall view. We only see 4 cars in the frame, as the 5th car, driven by Pirot, 6th Patrese, 7th Piquet, 8th Alesi, 9th Brundle, and 10th Modena are nowhere to be found. Stefan Johansson has come into the Onyx.
Is getting out.
He appears to be climbing out of the car and calling it quits for the German Grand Prix. Stefan Johansson, former McLaren and Ferrari driver, this year with Onyx. Now, here comes position number 5. That's Pirot. Let's go down to John once again and the update on Nannini.
Well, the update on Nannini is that he has climbed out of the car. The second box that we saw that they were changing, they housed the 2 coils for the electrical system. I wasn't sure of that. We didn't want to give any bad information. All the management system was changed along with both coils. They lit it up, and the misfire was just as bad as ever. Nannini out of the car, and I believe out of the race.
Well, that's very frustrating, because Nannini at Silverstone just 2 weeks ago had a fine position and in fact did the 3rd fastest lap of the race, so they were looking forward to having a good run here at Hockenheim.
So now it's left up to teammate Pirot to carry the colors for the Benetton team. Gerhard Berger in 3rd position, followed closely by Nigel Mansell. There's Senna, the leader of the race, and Prost.
I think at this stage it would be fair to say that Gerhard Berger is probably slightly holding up his teammate Nigel Mansell. It's a bit hard to tell just yet, but Nigel looks like he would be quicker than Gerhard if Gerhard wasn't in front, although right at the moment I've no doubt that Gerhard has other feelings than that.
Only one driver has won 3 times at this particular racetrack. Nelson Piquet. He won here in 81, 86, and 87. Now, there have been other 3-time winners of the German Grand Prix, but not at this racetrack. The great Juan Manuel Fangio won in 54, 56, and 57, and Jackie Stewart in 68, 71, and 73. And we have 4 drivers that have won the German Grand Prix on 2 different occasions. Ascari in 51 and 52, Tony Brooks in 58 and 59, John Surtees in 63 and 64, and Jackie Ickx in 69 and 72. And among the other drivers who have won 1 German Grand Prix, Jim Clark in 65, Niki Lauda in 77, and Mario Andretti in 1978.
The year, of course, that Mario Andretti became the 2nd United States citizen to be world champion in Formula One. And we really could do with a little bit more interest from some American drivers in the Formula One championship. I think it would do a lot for the championship, and it would do, well, generally do a lot for racing, I think. Alan Prost. They call him the professor, and they don't call him the professor for nothing. I mean, this is one thinking little guy, and I'm sure that he is able to hang on to Ayrton Senna this afternoon. I don't think Senna's sandbagging anyway yet, and it'll be very interesting to see how this race unfolds this afternoon. The pressure is really now on this man, Senna, not Prost. Prost has decided to sever his links with McLaren. We don't know what he's going to do next year. And Senna, of course, is 20 points behind in the current World Championship. He's got to do well. The pressure is all on him, not Prost.
So we will be back with more of the German Grand Prix from Hockenheimring on this Sunday afternoon here on ESPN in just a moment. Adam will be on hand with all the action for you. That's at 5 o'clock Eastern Time this afternoon here on ESPN. The German Grand Prix continues, and it is Ayrton Senna leading over teammate Alain Prost. Third is Gerhard Berger. Fourth is Mansell. Emmanuel Pirot is running in fifth position, followed by Patrese, Nelson Piquet, John Alesi, and Stefano Modena.
Modena must have, in fact, passed his teammate Martin Brundle, who out-qualified him, but Modena went very well this morning in the warm-up, much better than his teammate, and he's now running in a strong ninth spot, and of course is the first runner here on Pirelli tires, all the rest of the runners being on Goodyear. There's Gerhard looking in his mirror, getting a bit hunted now as Nigel Mansell's really putting the pressure on. The two McLarens are pulling away from these guys slowly but surely, and Senna, in fact, is putting a little bit of daylight between himself and his teammate Alain Prost. Now we're into the Sachs curve, right in the middle of the stadium. A lot of people looking at Gerhard Berger as he sweeps through these curves now. Lovely curves to go through these. Down the gear here, little short shoot, down to the oval curve, and streaks down past pits, reads all their various signals. As you can see, only just in front of his teammate and Mansell.
He is right on his teammate's rear wing. As we indicated, Mansell spun during the warm-up session this morning, and in order to avoid hitting him, Berger took the other Ferrari off course.
Yes, it was all a bit hairy. They had some contretemps with Stefan Johansson in the practice, and yeah, both Ferraris were on the grass. Nigel really getting him on braking there. Into the first and the slower of the chicanes. Into the east curve. You'll notice how the two Ferraris just both absolutely lamped right over that curve. They don't, and yet Senna, we watched go through there just a couple of laps ago. He barely ticks it, which I would have thought would be the better line to take. That leaping over the curve like that must really upset the weight of the car.
It must be really difficult on the suspension.
Give you tremendous cross-jacking of weight in the car too. You can see the heat haze coming off the two Honda engine cars. Plus, there's a fair bit of heat haze around today. It's quite hot today. But the sun having gone in, as you can see, we're now under overcast skies. The sun went in about half an hour ago. That might help their tyre wear just a bit, because obviously the track temperature will drop a little bit as the sun goes in.
Let's go down to John Bisignano, who has a comment on Gerhard Berger.
Well, we're right in the Ferrari garage, and we have been watching the people very carefully. They have not given Berger a sign yet, but there are some people getting a bit excited. David Hobbs, I think you're absolutely right that there is an opinion down here that Gerhard Berger from Austria is holding up Nigel Mansell, who has been the fastest man in the team consistently this year.
Well, it would certainly appear so, because Mansell pulls right up on the rear wing of Berger just about every lap and looks for the opportunity to get by, but so far has not been able to find it. But certainly he has equal power, if not just a little bit more power than Berger.
And of course it's critical if Berger's holding... Berger's lost a tire.
A tire shreds, and Berger flies through the air, crossing the track just ahead of Mansell.
Jeep.
And Gerhard Berger is out of the German Grand Prix. What a scary moment that must have been for Gerhard. It looked as if that left rear tire shredded, and just as he was braking to go into one of those chicanes.
Absolutely. Must have given old Nigel a bit of a heart attack as well. And of course, Nigel had to slow up, so that'll make the gap between him and the two... Here we see it again.
Here it is again. It's difficult to tell what happened. Maybe the rear suspension broke. I don't know.
No, I think his left rear tire was flat, which made him lock up the right front, which is where all the smoke was coming from. Because as the left rear tire goes flat, obviously the left rear corner drops down and takes weight off the right front, because his right front still looks okay, but the left rear is definitely flat.
And the nose of that car came off. Looked like it almost came back and hit Berger on top of the head. And one of the amazing things to me about the Formula One season in 1989, of all the drivers who have scored points in the championship, Gerhard Berger is not among them and will not score points, of course, today.
No, he's had an incredibly bad run this year. You're right, there's 27 people who scored points, and Gerhard Berger has yet to score a point, and he's one guy who this year I thought would do extremely well.
Let's go to John Bisignano.
Just talking about that situation with Berger, please remember that at Hockenheimring, the straights are so long that a tire, even with less air or virtually no air in it, the centrifugal force will keep the tire up as long as he's going maybe over 175, 180 miles an hour. Then when he hits the brakes, it flattens, and as Bob and David have alluded to, then the front end of the car comes right off the ground. It had to be a horrible moment, but Berger may have had no indication whatsoever down that long straightaway that he was losing air in that rear tire.
Coming up for the first back marker here, which I suspect is Jonathan Palmer in the Tyrrell. That is, and now the back markers are pretty spread out, so I don't think this is going to cause any consternation. But this is where Ayrton Senna normally picks up a lot of time when they get amongst the back markers.
Well, he disposed of the doctor rather quickly there. However, Prost has not been able to pass as they head for the other chicane.
Now that's right there, of course, is the first nail in the coffin, because Senna got him on the straight, and Prost had to follow him through that chicane, so he lost a bit of time there.
Palmer moving over, though, and recognizing the faster car behind him, allowing Prost to once again go by. So Senna continues to lead, and Prost continues to run second in the German Grand Prix. Back with more right after this. F&G Asset Management, a network to better manage money, people, property, and equipment.
We're looking at the 1989 Ford F1 3.5-liter V8. It's a 4-valve per-cylinder motor with the cylinder heads and the block made of a very light aluminum. This has allowed Ford to reduce the overall weight of the engine by some 15 to 20%. Another difference over 1988 specs is the fact that the cylinder heads run at a 75-degree angle rather than a 90-degree angle. And in fact, if you look at the engine, it's extremely compact. Every dimension on this engine has been reduced. Why? Because they wanted to give the Benetton team a more aerodynamic package to butt up against their chassis, and they have succeeded. Right now, Michael Panofis of Ford Motorsports tells us that this motor is about 20 horsepower down on the very successful Hondas, and they hope to take up that space by the end of the 1989 season.
Well, one of the Benettons is already out of the race, Nannini. However, Emmanuel Pirro in the Benetton Ford is still in competition, and as a matter of fact is running in 4th position. This is the first race for his drive with the new Ford.
But there we see the two leaders in the McLaren Hondas, the familiar McLaren Hondas, and the gap staying pretty even at about 3/4 of a second between the two leaders. Now there's Jonathan Palmer in the blue and yellow car, about to be overtaken by Nigel Mansell, who's now dropped to nearly 8 seconds behind the leaders. But of course, he lost a bit of time when his teammate Gerhard Berger was having that lurid off-track moment a few moments ago. It'll be interesting to see if Nigel can pull some of that time back. But at the moment, not looking too successful, because he's obviously having a bit of a job to get around old Jay Payne, and he's a good doctor. Is he going to let him through? No. Probably let him through on exit from here.
As he did when he saw the McLarens in his rearview mirror. Let's see if he pulls to the side of the track and allows the faster car to pass by. Well, we'll not
find
know.
out in a minute.
Yes. Senna and Prost, first and second.
To add to what John said about tires going flat, the other thing, of course, that since ground effect, the tires construction have come so stiff. The sidewalls have to be so stiff to hold the car up. When they're developing a couple of thousand pounds of downforce, that looked like smoke coming out the back of Ayrton Senna's car to me.
I thought I saw that a couple of laps ago, but I don't think it's gotten much worse, and obviously it hasn't slowed down the car very much.
But as John says, with a stiff sidewall, a tire can go flat, and if you're still doing 170, 180 mile an hour, until you turn a corner, you really have no idea it's gone down on you.
Let's get into some juicy gossip, too, David.
Yeah, there's lots of juicy gossip going on in the paddock this weekend. This man's going to retire, that one's going to retire.
Oh, here comes Prost in for a pit stop. Alain Prost is on pit road. And and John Bizignano is right there to call the stop.
McLaren people have been set up for a couple laps, and Alain Prost makes a stop right in his area. The perfect boys of McLaren are doing an excellent job. A little bit of trouble with the right front. The right front was a little bit slow, but it looks like they have it under control, and we have, again, he is spinning the wheels while the jack is still on the stand. It's the left rear. Last week it was the right rear. Alain Prost, a little bit of a lengthy stop, but not as bad as it was in Great Britain.
Not a very good stop at all. They had trouble with the one tire, and then he was definitely spinning the wheels. But when he put the brakes on, you could hear the engine slow up. So I'm wondering if his clutch was dragging a bit. He had his foot hard on the clutch, but it was still dragging.
So that puts Senna well out ahead of everybody. He now has the lead, and Nigel Mansell picks up second position, and Pirro third. But we will go back now and talk about the so-called silly season in Formula One. We all know that Prost has announced he will not be back with McLaren next year. Or will he, David? Do you have some inside information that you might pass along?
Well, the rumor going around the weekend is that Ayrton Senna is going to retire at the end of this year, and that Prost will join Berger, or Prost will stay with McLaren, and that Berger will join him, and that will be the dynamic duo for 1990. But that's only one of the rumors. One of the other rumors is that Prost is going to retire for a year, and that Senna will retire at the end of next year, and Prost will come back. And of course there's this super French team that Prost is supposed to be involved in, but there doesn't seem to be much evidence of that yet. Well, so who knows?
Yeah, there's certainly no clear-cut evidence of Senna or Prost doing anything for 1990, so stay with us and we'll keep you informed as the days and the weeks go by.
Now what we need our man in the pits to do, that is John Bizignano. We need him to find out what compound came off Prost's car and what compound went back onto it, because it may be by stopping early he had softer tires. But here's Nigel Mansell. We're about due for stops.
We have the Ferrari, of course, changing all four tires. We certainly can't see the compound right now, David. We will double check that. He is having a problem. It looks like the car fell off the jacks. They solved the problem, and my gosh, this is dangerous down here. The mechanics are just spread like wildflowers. The information before the race was that they were going to go to B's and stay on B's. Some people had options for C's, but it's supposed to be B to B change, David.
Well, now the sun's gone, and it just might be interesting to see if old Albert Prost decided to try maybe a little sneaky do on some C's, get a bit more speed out of the old machine.
So we've had several cars make their first pit stops. Here
that looks like one of the Williams, so that must be Patrese.
Boutsen is already out of the race. Patrese makes his stop and goes back out into competition. And look at the incredible number of people along pit road.
Far too many, really. They have too many. I think the mechanics that they allow on these Formula One pit stops is a bit excessive. There's poor old Dr. Palmer, who was running dead last, is now out of the race in any event.
So we can scratch a Tyrrell off of the standings.
Go off and do a couple of heart rate tests. It'll be interesting to see how long Senna stays out. I wonder if he's going to try one of his magical running through the whole race without No.
Here he comes.
We are set.
Ayrton Senna heads toward you, John, for his pit stop.
As the race leader comes in, Ron Dennis is trying to get him to slow. They have actually put water down on the patches underneath the tires, trying to cool them down a little bit, David. That the temperature certainly has effect here today. Very quick stop. There is a problem. Again, it's the right rear. The mechanic has his hand jammed up into the wheel. He has picked up the jack one more time. The car comes off, and they've taken the tire back off. They certainly have a problem with either the large one lug nut or the spindle. There's going to be some practice at the McLaren garage this weekend.
Well, both of the McLaren cars have trouble during their pit stops. Senna and Prost both in for very long times when you consider how quick a Formula One pit stop is normally. And one of the Benettons also in for a pit stop. That is Pirro, who is running in third position. We'll be back with more right after this from Hockenheimring. Bob Jenkins, David Hobbs, and John Bizignano back at Hockenheimring in West Germany for the German Grand Prix. The McLarens are up front once again, but this time it's Alain Prost who is in the lead, and Ayrton Senna is second. The pit stops, both completed by the McLaren drivers, and both were much longer than they had hoped they would be, and Prost comes out with the lead in third position, and here comes the Ferrari of Nigel Mansell.
In fact, all three leaders had absolutely horrendous pit stops on any other day, but as they all had horrendous stops, they've ended up more or less in the status quo, except that Senna's was the worst of the lot, and which has given Alain Prost the lead, and of course it's helped poor old Nigel Mansell here maintain his good third spot. He's pulled up a lot over when we last went away from him.
So there's the interval between second and third position. Mansell in the Ferrari in third place.
And now his teammate Gerhard Berger has exited the scene. It'll be interesting to see if he can, in fact, make any impression on these Honda engine cars. Down into the chicane. Those blue blocks, as we have mentioned before, are not concrete. They are, in fact, huge styrofoam chunks, and pretty spectacular when the cars run into them.
Who was it that we saw? Who was it we saw slide off course yesterday, and we thought, oh my goodness, he's going to hit the cement, and it just shatters.
One of the Onyx cars.
Yeah, right.
It's one of those little tricks where you expect a rubber Mickey Mouse to jump up behind it and say, because you really think your last moment's come.
Alain Prost, going for 3 consecutive wins in Formula One competition, has the lead over Senna, but it looks like that Ayrton may be closing in just a bit.
Well, I think he certainly will on the new tyres. Ayrton is obviously slightly quicker, these two drivers. I think that fact has to be faced. But of course, Alain Prost is a wily little Frenchman, and he has won a lot of races, and there's nothing to say he will not win a lot more. He is a very good driver, and
a little slippage there.
A little slippy.
That's Sachs curve in front of the grandstand.
Which is a grandstand here. It's built around this inner complex of curves and holds close to 100,000 people. There's the Lola. That must be Philippe Alliot.
It is indeed. He has
with
a
that
change
much
of tires.
sponsorship on it, you can't tell who's who.
See the Camel logo on the roll bar area, but of course you will not see the Camel word displayed anywhere because
his new teammate, of course, is Michele Alboreto, who's already out of the race. Alain Prost has just set the fastest lap of the race, and if he maintains that to the end, he will increase his already staggering total of fastest laps in Grand Prix. That looks like it's a Camel Lotus. We don't know which one.
Well, meanwhile, here is Nelson Piquet in the pits. Here's John.
Bob, Nelson Piquet, 3-time world champion. They are having quite a normal pit stop, as you said. The leaders came in earlier. The reason that is they are going faster on their tires. So the leaders actually are putting more wear on the car and on the tires. You're going to see the second generation, the second half of the grid, all stopping in the next few laps.
And we have Jean Alesi spinning off course there at Sachs curve that we mentioned just a moment ago. And so the other Tyrrell now slides off course, and he is going to be out of competition. Palmer out early. Oh, and we have a fire.
A bad fire. Is that Alliot's car? That's pretty bad.
Alliot, who was in for a pit stop just a few moments ago, and now a huge flame comes from the engine compartment of that car. The fire crew quickly on the scene to extinguish it, and Alliot jumps out of the vehicle uninjured, but that could have been a serious situation.
Dangerous place there, too, as you can see, right on just past the apex of that chicane. They're going to tow the car away as quickly as possible. Alliot going back to make sure the fuel pumps and everything else are switched off.
So both of the Lolas are now out of competition. Both Alboreto and Philippe Alliot dropped from the race.
I had said earlier that that was one of the Lotuses that were out on the side of the road, and of course, I have to correct myself, it was in fact Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell, but he has signed for the rest of this year and for next year as well, and has been going pretty well.
And here's a replay. Oh, look at the tremendous amount of fire from that car. But Alliot jumped out.
What started it?
Everything appears to be okay as far as Alliot is concerned. So we turn our attention back to the race itself, and we find that Alain Prost is in the lead, with Senna running in second spot and Nigel Mansell in third. Pirro runs fourth in the Benetton, then Piquet in the Lotus. Gugelmin is sixth position right now. There's a leader Prost.
And an interesting situation could be developing because Alain Prost, Frenchman of the moment, is about to catch up with his old countryman and teammate, René Arnoux, who's definitely a Frenchman of the past. And René, as we saw at Monte Carlo and a number of other Grand Prix, is not the easiest man to lap. And he's caught him just going into the stadium where we have a number of corners together. So just to make me look a liar, in fact, René Arnoux has pulled over Lane Flute, no trouble at all.
And of course, the Ligier, driven by René Arnoux.
Whoever René Arnoux has been following is dropping an awful lot of oil, as his helmet was absolutely covered in oil, as you saw from that super speed shot there.
We saw Alesi spin off course just a few moments ago, and I indicated that he may be out of competition. He did not drop out. He is back on course. So Alesi in the Tyrrell is still in competition.
Ayrton Senna really does not seem to be catching up with his teammate Alain Prost, who's just set another fastest lap of the race time. So Alain Prost is really, as Ken Squire would say, putting the pedal to the metal. No, the pedal to the metal. Wrong way around.
We are just about halfway through this event. 45 laps constitutes the German Grand Prix, and we're on lap number 23 at the moment. There is Senna going around the Ligier. He pursues his teammate Alain Prost, who is in the lead at the moment at just about the halfway point of this ninth stop on the World Tour of Formula One for 1989. We'll be right back. Today, the German Grand Prix from Hockenheimring in West Germany, and 2 weeks from today, the Formula One series continues with the Hungarian Grand Prix from Budapest. Airtime is at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, Sunday, August the 13th, right here on ESPN. So be with us 2 weeks from today with more Formula One racing from Budapest in Hungary. There is Alain Prost, and here comes Ayrton Senna. And as you indicated, John, it doesn't appear as if Senna is really closing in very much on Prost.
I'm David, he's John.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
John.
Well, he's 4 seconds behind still, according to our Longines Olivetti timer, which actually runs only a lap behind for us, but he doesn't seem to be making much ground, does he? I must admit. And Nigel Mansell, poor old Nige, seems to be slipping out of their clutches. He's now 16 seconds behind. You see what I mean about Ayrton Senna only just clips that curb, whereas both Ferrari drivers were driving right over it.
Yeah, they get both left side tires and then some on the rumble strips, but not so the McLarens.
And who knows, that could have been a contributory factor to Gerhard Berger's eventual left rear failure, which I think was a tire going flat, but it might have been suspension. We don't know yet.
If you are just joining us, Berger with a spectacular accident. There really didn't involve any injury, but Berger apparently had a left rear tire go flat as he was entering one of the chicanes, and the car got airborne momentarily, slid across the track in front of his teammate Mansell, and all was well. However, it did create a nervous moment for the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger. There we saw Alesi just a moment ago. He spun off course a while ago, but is now back in the race.
And
here's Mansell. Oh, that's one of the Dallaras.
I think that's Martini being overtaken by De Cesaris. Not Martini, Stefano Modena. And that's De Cesaris that's just whistled by him. Right behind him is Pierluigi Martini. Behind him is John Alesi, who's got back on the road again. And right behind him was Satoru Nakajima in the low tire. This lot all really duking it out for ninth. They're 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th at the moment.
De Cesaris passed Modena and went into that 9th spot. That's the red Dallara driven by De Cesaris. Then Modena in the Brabham.
Both those cars, of course, are on Pirelli tires. But it's a very... These guys are having the race of their life because no one's taking the slightest bit of notice of them. That's the sad thing about racing midfield in any sort of racing, and I suppose Formula One even more because so much emphasis is put on winning. But I mean, these guys are all racing their heart out, as you can see, and they're racing for 8th.
Oh, look at Nakajima go to the inside of Alesi, headed toward the chicane. Let's see who makes it through here. Oh, they're going to go through side by side. Oh, and the camera didn't follow them. Well, Nakajima passed him.
Alesi took the wise precaution there of the old adage of he who lives and runs away lives to fight another day, which I think I've said before. And of course he will, because he's still got the wheels on the right side of his car, which is very important to win races or even finish. You must have all the wheels on the car. Jolly inconvenient when they fall off. There we see Eddie Cheever. Cheever up to 13th spot from his miserable 25th qualifying spot. As usual, when the race starts, Eddie Cheever goes extremely well. Just seems to have got a bit of a mental block at the moment about qualifying, but I'm sure he'll get his old skill back, just having a bit of a down patch only on qualifying. Once the race starts, he goes extremely well.
So Eddie Cheever finds himself now up into the 13th position. Meanwhile, we go back to the leader of the race. It continues to be Alain Prost. As we now go back and watch this scramble for 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th.
That's Cheever and Capelli. Capelli also having a very miserable weekend. Went very fast at Silverstone, looked good at France, and we thought on these high-speed circuits that the new Leighton House car would go well. Doesn't seem to be living up to that promise here. Gugelmin was going a lot better, but he, unfortunately, is already out. No, he's not. I tell a lie. Poor old Gugelmin. Bad mouthing. He's lying 6th spot at the moment.
Here comes Nakajima trying to take over another position from Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, and he does so. Nakajima's having a good run.
Oh, a very good run. A mighty samurai sword. And now he's got his sights set on Stefano Modena, who's running in 8th spot. This is an incredible race.
These guys are really going at it out there.
In front of the crowd, in here, in the stadium section.
There is Modena in the number 8 Brabham. De Cesaris, who passed Modena a few laps ago, is now beginning to pull away just a little bit. That is De Cesaris in the red car, the Dallara. And here comes the Brabham, the Lotus of Nakajima, then Alesi, and then Capelli. And now here comes the leader, Alain Prost. So we have the leader catching up. And here is Eddie Cheever in the pits. Let's go to John.
Eddie Cheever, the only American in this race. The Arrows boys are trying to give him the fastest pit stop possible. They are certainly having some problem with the right rear. The right rear, the smoke coming off the brakes is tremendous as Eddie Cheever just lays rubber all the way through the March pit, but there was an awful lot of smoke coming off of his brakes. Bob, David, is this a tremendously hard braking circuit? I didn't think it was, but the smoke was pouring off of all 4 discs.
Well, something has happened to Pirro in the Benetton as he has slid off course, and let's see what happened.
Ooh.
Oh, and he's going to hit one of those styrofoams. There, that's what happens when you hit him. That's certainly better than hitting concrete or anything solid, but it still tears up the race car.
Jeepers. Is he going to hit that sign?
So Pirro was running in 4th position and is being lifted out of the race car, may have been injured in that excursion off course. In fact, he appears to be in quite a bit of pain. We will be back with more of the German Grand Prix right after this. We are back at the German Grand Prix, and Emmanuel Pirro has been involved in a crash and is being lifted from the race car and put on a stretcher for some medical attention. He appeared to be in great pain as they lifted him out of the car. Certainly too early to speculate on any injury that might have been received, but nevertheless, he has been lifted out of the car and is being attended to. Now we see the leader, Alain Prost, moving through some traffic and having a bit of a problem doing so.
Well, of course, he's moving through that incredible race for 8th through 15th spot, and of course none of those guys are going to be too happy to let him go through, as we saw more attention being paid to Pirro there. I must say the car didn't look all that badly damaged, but of course from here it's extremely hard to tell. The only thing that Prost has got to console himself with is the fact, of course, that his teammate Ayrton Senna has also got to work his way through that intense race for 8th through 16th spot.
And there is Gugelmin in for a pit stop. Tom Visignano reports.
Mauricio Gugelmin has certainly stopped in his area perfectly in the March, boys. The engine has stopped. They have gone into into the cockpit. They are trying to sort something out down into the cockpit area. They have changed all 4 tires successfully. In fact, it was an extremely fast change. They are starting, they're looking at the engine cover. Yes, no, yes, they think it's in the dashboard. A quick check of the suspension. This has to be agonizing for Mauricio Gugelmin. This is the man who was upside down only 3 weeks ago in France, and now he is standing still in the Hockenheim pits.
Tough break for Gugelmin, who throws the steering wheel out and is climbing out of that machine. You know, when you come to a Formula One race and you begin to learn the cars and the drivers, you really don't pay attention to the cars themselves. You pay attention to helmets. And Gugelmin's brightly painted helmet is about the only one that you can pick up readily when you're watching them out there.
Very readily indeed. And now Alain Prost is going to go by Andrea de Cesaris, who, as you can see, was in fact passed by Satoru Nakajima. Nakajima on an incredible flyer this afternoon as he picked his way through all those cars that we saw him dicing with earlier on, and must have caught up and passed de Cesaris, and now is about to be lapped by the leader Alain Prost, or at least Alain Prost hopes he's going to lap him before he gets into the stadium area.
He gets to the inside of Nakajima, but he'll let Satoru go for the moment and try to pass him.
Well, he won't want to, because now Satoru could hold him up through the entire infield, which he is doing.
That Sachs curve, and Prost gets around Nakajima. Look at the incredibly small wing that the McLarens and just about everybody else using, the small rear wings, allowing them some good straightaway speeds.
It allows them terrific straightaway speeds for a Formula One car. They're doing 200 miles an hour here, but it does make them twitchy through the corners, and of course it increases their tire wear problem.
Prost has about a almost 5-second lead on Ayrton Senna. There he is, running in 2nd position. Nigel Mansell finds himself almost 29 seconds behind Senna in 3rd position. Nigel,
I guess, must be having some sort of a problem, because he has lost 15 seconds in only about 7 or 8 laps, which seems unusual, to say the least.
Now here comes Senna through the traffic, and that is Nakajima just ahead of him. We'll see how easily or difficult it is for him to pass Satoru. Prost had a bit of a problem.
Well, it looks as if Senna's going to catch him basically on this straight section. He's going to catch him up as he goes into the chicane, and probably blast by on the way out. Maybe.
Now we'll see him dart to the inside, undoubtedly, and there is the attention being paid to Emmanuel Pirro as he is now being lifted into the ambulance after quite a shunt.
His brakes appeared to lock at the end of the straight going into the compound here, into the stadium area, just about where they are now, where that flashing light is, in fact. And he suddenly swerved left, and without another look at a replay, we can't tell whether something broke, whether the tire went flat, or whether he just lost it on braking. But he's hit 3 or 4 of those styrofoam blocks. It didn't appear to do much damage, but obviously damaged himself in some way in that car.
By the way, Nakajima, whom Senna just passed, is running in 9th position on our score chart. 1 lap down. There are 6 cars on the lead lap at the moment, with Derek Warwick running in 6th place.
And Nakajima, of course, like many of the drivers out there, has yet to sign for a team for 1990. But he seems to have an almost bottomless pit of Japanese money to call on, so probably the lad's not too worried. Just to answer John's question about brakes, this circuit is fairly hard on brakes, because the few corners that are here are pretty slow, and you approach them, of course, at super high speed. So like here, for instance, you have to knock off probably 130 miles an hour. Then you accelerate back up to top speed again and knock off another 100 miles an hour at the next corner, and then into the stadium it's the same. So you do have to lose tremendous amounts of speed here, but there are long enough straights that the brakes do have time to cool off in between, but it's still fairly hard on brakes.
So you're not using the brakes all that much, but when you do use them, you really have to stand on them.
Really, really have to stand on them. Exactly.
The interval between 1st and 2nd. There's the leader, Alain Prost, moving through. Car number 2, the McLaren. And now about 3.5 seconds behind is Senna, so he is definitely closing the gap.
Yeah, you can see Senna coming to the frame there. Alan about to overtake Derek Warwick, I think, in the USF and G arrows.
That would be the next car that would go a lap down. Warwick in 6th spot.
Now Now, is there any smoke coming out the back of Senna's car? Doesn't look like it there. We saw a bit earlier on, but in the stadium here, the car looking pretty set. Both these drivers, of course, will still be just a little bit worried about that transverse gearbox. New 2 weeks ago at Silverstone, first time they'd raced it. Had a lot of trouble with it in practice at Silverstone. There we see Nigel Mansell, number 27 Ferrari.
He is in third place, about a little over 30 seconds behind the leader.
He obviously must be having some sort of a problem to have dropped back that far, because for the first 10 laps he was absolutely no problem to hold on to the leaders, only lost barely 4 or 5 seconds in those first 10 or 15 laps, and there suddenly lost 20 seconds.
There goes Derek Warwick down a lap in the Arrow, so now only 5 cars are on the lead lap, and the next one to go a lap down would be Nelson Piquet, who is in 5th spot. Here comes Senna. So it's the McLarens first and second, Prost and Senna in the 37th running of the German Grand Prix from Hockenheimring in West Germany. We'll be right back. Mention the history of the automobile having taken birth here in Germany, and a couple of years ago there was this old car rally held downtown in Hockenheim, and here are some of the old machines that were on display. Do you ever drive any of these, David?
Yeah, I remember, of course, this was to mark the centenary of the automobile, which was invented, or the internal combustion engine, which was invented here in Germany. There you see some of the old and the new. Some of these beautiful old cars. Look at that. Wonderful old Phaeton. Not such quite wonderful transport. Not too good if it rained in those cars. That looks like a Lonley, or this is the old bridge into Heidelberg, and the foundations of that bridge were put down by the Romans. So we've got some very, very extreme. There's a Ford, an old Ford.
So not only history of the automobile, but a little bit of history otherwise.
That looks like a Mercedes 540K, a car that you'd have to give millions of dollars for today.
I'm sure. And now we're back to our live action here at Hockenheimring with Prost continuing to lead. He grabbed the lead, by the way, during the first series of pit stops. He was in, and it took him a rather long time to get tires, but it took Senna even a longer time. And that's the reason he's in the lead. Let's go to John, who's with Philippe Alliot.
Philippe Alliot, we are very glad to see you back here with no problems. There was a huge flame coming out of your car. What went wrong?
Yeah, it's you can see on my helmet, holds the engine.
You can see the oil everywhere on here.
And holds the oil did the fire, and the oil get go on the tire, and the car spun.
So the hot oil hit the engine and up it went in flames.
Yeah, I think it will be difficult to finish a Grand Prix this year. We have many problems. We need trouble with the engine, and it's a big problem for us.
Philippe Alliot, you're unlucky that you're out of the race, but you're lucky to be standing here. Philippe Alliot in the pits, safe in Hockenheim.
And also in the pits, the 9th running car of Ivan Capelli. You saw the march come in as we were having that interview with Philippe Alliot, and so the 9th place car in for his 2nd pit stop of the afternoon.
Ayrton Senna whittling away at the lead of his teammate Alain Prost. There we see Ivan Capelli's car in the pit lane. Hugemin in the other one of these Leighton House March cars, already out of the race. Alain Prost about to put Nelson Piquet a lap down here. Is Nelson going to play ball here and let him through?
The Honda engine powering these McLarens, and the Honda engine, the old Honda engine, the 1.5 liter, made its debut in World Championship Formula One racing at the German Grand Prix. It was actually in Nürburgring in 1964, and the driver was Ronnie Bucknam.
Ronnie Bucknam, and one of the few Formula One drivers that I had was with the V12 3-liter engine back at Monza in 1968 with the beautiful V12 engine. I also drove the air-cooled one, and that was before Honda. Well, Honda then retired from Formula One for a few years, and of course has come back with devastating results.
Let's go to John Bizignano with an update on the condition of Pirro.
Well, Bob, it was a bit of an accident for sure. We all thought that it wasn't that serious, but he did hurt himself. He had a severe pain in his back immediately after the impact. The word now is that he's absolutely okay and moving around. It was like an instantaneous pinched nerve, only for a little while. Also, we have talked to Lee Gog, and we have to change our original prediction. There will not be 2 pit stops by every team here. It seems that the wear is absolutely okay the second half of this race. They have checked all the tires that have come in. They say there should not be any stops. In fact, we know that Derek Warwick may be trying to go the whole distance without a stop at all. The tremendous racket that you see behind me now is the second March has come to the pits with virtually the same problem as his teammate. A very sad day for a hard-working March team in Hockenheim.
Well, that, of course, is the new Judd engine in that car. Only March have that engine this year. That also is a narrow-angle V, rather like the new Ford that's in the Benetton car. Both of these narrow-angle engines have been designed and built to increase the aerodynamic efficiency of the cars, reduce the frontal area, and allow the designers to make more efficient tunnels, which, of course, are not allowed to actually have tunnels, but you know my meaning, to make the cars more efficient both through the air and to use the air to push them down on the road. But both those engines misfiring badly, the Judd engines and both of the Benettons now out of the race.
Watching now Nigel Mansell, the only remaining Ferrari, as Berger took his Ferrari out of the race very, very early. Mansell in third, about 46 seconds behind the leader. We talk about how much history there is of the automobile in Germany, but it's interesting to note that German race drivers have not experienced much success, at least in Formula One competition. Only 2 German drivers have ever won Grand Prix, totaling 3. Wolfgang von Trips won 2 and Jochen Mass won 1. But other than that, German drivers have been rather unsuccessful in this type of racing.
And, of course, much to the chagrin of the 100,000 people or so here, no German drivers took the grid today. Christian Danner being knocked out of the starting lineup yesterday afternoon's qualifying, so no German drivers in this race at all.
Ayrton Senna runs in second position to Alain Prost, about 3.2 seconds behind, as we've only got about 10 more laps to go in the German Grand Prix. Back with more right after this.
A lot of testing every 2 weeks. Every week we go testing. And in between that, I think the only holiday I've got is skiing holiday in January. I spent the first 2 weeks of January skiing in France.
I spend time with my family and get to know my children and have a good time and get myself in good shape again and basically enjoy myself.
Honestly, we have not so much time to have holidays, but especially in the winter, in December, I like to went with the family to the mountains to have a little bit ski and something like that.
I always go back to my home country, do some jet skiing, water skiing, which are my main hobbies, and stay on the beach. Good sleep, good food, and relax.
Skiing and sleep and go to the beach.
Well, I'm living in Munich, so first I drink beer.
Kentucky, only second to Heidelberg, West Germany, in terms of beautiful cities in the world.
What Thierry Boutsen didn't say was when he goes on that damn skiing holiday of his in France, he took me one year and I spent the next 3 weeks in hospital with a completely shattered left leg.
There are 8 laps to go in this race, and Alain Prost is looking for his 3rd win in a row in Grand Prix competition. Has he ever done that in 1 year, David?
Well, I don't think that he's ever won 3 in a row before in the same year. What he has done, he's won the last 2 of '84 and the first of 1985, making 3 in a row, but never in the same year. And, of course, he still hasn't won this one yet.
And let's go to John Bisignano with a follow-up to that comment.
Bob, just a quick comment. You know, most team managers feel that skiing is far too dangerous for their drivers to be doing. In fact, it's in most drivers' contract that they are not allowed to be skiing. And we've had 4 or 5 drivers admit on camera that the #1 thing they do in the off-season in the beautiful Alps is go skiing. It's a very dangerous game.
It was very interesting to hear just about all of them say that skiing is their favorite pastime.
Well, I suppose next to racing, skiing has the same thrills, the same air of dedication required. There's
Nakajima. He had such a great run going, but as you can see, he has spun, and the car appears to be stalled. The Lotus, they're trying to get it started once again. Nakajima was in 7th position when this spin occurred. Now, those that are in the top 6 right now and stand to score points, Prost and Senna, of course, Mansell, Patrese, Piquet, and Derek Warwick in 6th position, and the final points-paying spot.
Ayrton Senna has just set the fastest lap of the race, taking that away from Alain Prost. Of course, Prost has got an unbelievable record of fastest laps in the race, whereas his teammate Ayrton Senna has the same sort of record of pole positions. It's quite extraordinary, but Senna is winding him in slowly but surely.
He sure is winding him in. This interval is going to be down considerably on this lap. Last lap was 2.3 seconds, and I think it's going to close in considerably, although now we see that still there's a bit of separation between them. Should McLaren go on to win this German Grand Prix, it will be the 4th time that the chassis has won. Ferrari leads in that category as far as chassis wins at the German Grand Prix with 13. Brabham has 5, Lotus with 4, and McLaren standing to tie that at 4.
Oh, Alain Prost must be gritting his teeth now and just praying that the traffic in front goes at least roughly his way, because Ayrton Senna's really got the bit between his teeth now, hasn't he? Soon he'll be picking up his draft, and that will, of course, aid him enormously in catching him up on this circuit. It's one of the few circuits where you really can use the draft in Formula 1.
Oh, Modena.
Modena out.
Modena in the Brabham is out.
And that spoiled a good run. Modena was running in 10th spot, just behind his teammate Martin Brundle.
By the way, the Brabham chassis, from which Modena has extracted himself, debuted at the German Grand Prix in 1962. Here is Prost completing another lap, and he's clicking them off. If he can hold the lead for just a few more laps, he'll have the victory, but Senna has other ideas, and the interval is down to just about 2 seconds.
And of course, not only he's going to catch him up, he's going to pass him as well, which is another just
that may be a problem
just
too.
A slight point in Prost's favor. But like I say, on this long circuit, drafting does come into it. Of course, obviously, when they come to the corners, it breaks the draft, but it will help him catch him up those last few feet. Smelling victory now is our young Ayrton Senna.
But Ayrton Senna won this event last year and looks to make it 2 in a row. There is the interval between 1st and 2nd. Don't go away. The finishing lap's coming up, and it should be a tremendous finish. We'll be right back. Jenkins, David Hobbs, and John Bizignano back at Hockenheim Ring in West Germany for the German Grand Prix in its closing stages. We have Alain Prost leading at the moment, but the number 2 position is being held by Senna. Now we see some stuff coming out of the back of the car, it appears, although look at the interval.
Yes. Alain Prost looked like he was going very slowly through that corner. I don't know whether he got slightly balked by René Arnoux, but certainly Senna has really made tremendous strides in the last couple of laps, but was definitely laying a big trail of something out the back of his car.
We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll also see if Ayrton can close in on his teammate. The two are known to not get along, shall we say. As a matter of fact, Prost's decision to leave McLaren based quite a bit on the fact that Senna will remain with the team, or supposedly will. Let's go to John Bizignano, who's been following the progress of Derek Warwick in 6th position at the moment.
Bob, motor racing is a risky business, and Derek Warwick took a risk. He's the only top car out there with original tires. He never came in and changed anything. He has to be slipping and sliding, but he has that 6th place. That gives him 1 point. We call that he has happy mirrors. Nakajima is no longer in his mirrors. The next car is some 17 seconds back. Derek Warwick took a risk, and so far they've made it. 1 point, hopefully.
Indeed, Warwick in 6th spot. Others that are remaining on the grid, De Cesaris is 7th, Brundle is 8th, Martini 9th, Eddie Cheever in 10th position after starting 25th in the other arrows. 11th position belongs to Modena. Alisi, who spun, came back and is now running in 12th spot. Nakajima 13th, and René Arnoux is in 14th position. We We continue to watch the battle up front, however, as Alain Prost tries to stave off the challenge of Ayrton Senna.
Well, I think you're watching, probably for almost the first time this year, a real battle of the titans. These are the two best drivers in the world. Nigel Mansell's got to be getting close now, but I think these are the two finest drivers still in Formula One in the world. And I mean, this is a real grudge match. Senna has pulled up from some time down, and this is a real knockdown, drag-out race. Nobody's giving up anything here.
There are 4 more laps to go, so in just a little over 16 miles, we'll know who wins this German Grand Prix. Will it be Prost? Will it be Senna? Mansell about 11, make that about a minute behind in 3rd position.
No question at all of any quarter being given by either of these two drivers. Alain Prost is going to fight this one down to the last ditch, however nice he is and how professorial he is. Ayrton Senna, of course, is a tough, very vibrant, very fast driver, probably the fastest guy around at the moment. But Alain Prost is clever and also extremely fast.
Ayrton Senna, the defending world champion. 18 times the winner of the German Grand Prix has gone on to become the world champion. Senna, the most recent. Piquet won the championship in 81 and 87 after winning here at the German Grand Prix. The McLaren pit stand ready.
As you can see from that long shot behind, that's in front obviously, but from behind the cars you can see those little sparks coming out. That's on the gear shift, and of course it's the bottom of the cars just touching the floor.
There is Mansell in 3rd spot.
Not a lonely 3rd spot.
Yeah, not a threat to challenge either of the McLarens, but comfortably entrenched in 3rd place. Let's go to John John Bisognano. And my question is, what about team orders in a situation like this, John?
Well, traditionally, McLaren, of course, out there, that is the dynasty of McLaren. Ron Dennis and the engineers up there on the timing station. We try and corner Crichton Brown. He's the only one who will really talk to us in this situation. But traditionally, the answer has been absolutely no team orders. These two can run nose to tail. They can fight as fairly as possible. And there is no greater competition than amongst teammates. So as far as we know, there are no team orders. It's going to be right down to the flag, right down to the last inch for Team McLaren.
And we will know in less than 3 laps now, as Senna has just turned the fastest lap of the race. So indeed, he is trying to close in and take the lead here.
And let there be no question about team orders at all in this race. If he wants to pass him, he'll pass him whatever they hang out over the pit wall, I can tell you that. He's too far behind on points to do otherwise. Prost wins this. Senna coming second, of course. I mean, not all hope is lost by any means. But even so, he's a long way behind Prost, 20 points behind going into this race. Ooh, coming up on a slow car there. That's one of the arrows, one of the US F&G arrows. Seems to be going fairly slowly. Probably Derek Warwick with a puncture.
And indeed, the car is just about stalled on the racetrack. We're not sure whether that's Cheever or Warwick.
Ooh.
And here's Senna making a bid for the lead.
Prost,
He's got
Prost's
it.
in problem.
Yes. Prost backs out, and Senna passes him easily to take the lead with coming up on 2 laps to go. Wonder what happened to Prost's car. Any ideas?
Well, it seems...
Just all of a sudden, there was nothing there, and Senna darted to the right and got him.
I don't know whether that's some convoluted scoring in his own mind of how this World Championship's got to be won, and he might be better to come second than first, because towards the end of the year when they have to start dropping points, he'd be better to drop 6 than 9. Seems pretty hard to think that would be it. He's obviously got a problem of some sort. Can he hang on to second now?
Definitely falling back.
1 lap to go, right?
Mansell is in 3rd, and the interval between 2nd and 3rd quite a bit last time around, but Prost is going very slow in that car. Here comes Senna, meanwhile, at full song.
Sounds like gearbox trouble.
Yeah, it could be the transverse gearbox giving him trouble.
Now, of course, he had a bit of luck 2 weeks ago at Silverstone. We found out over the weekend that, in fact, one of the gears in his gearbox had chewed its way almost right through the casing. Another 2 laps at Silverstone, and he'd have been out of the race. So maybe this is a a return for that bit of luck he had at Silverstone. Who knows?
So Prost will nurse the McLaren the rest of the distance, as all he can do is watch teammate Senna just continue to pull ahead.
Terribly disappointing, though, for that to happen at that stage in a race, that close to the end, for something to go wrong. Of course, Senna had a similar thing at Montreal with just 5 laps to go. The engine quit. It's somehow so disappointing towards the end, especially when, like Prost, you've led every single lap.
Ayrton moving through the stadium once again, will come out onto the main straightaway. And I believe this will be just one more lap to go. 1 lap to go. This is the last lap.
Yep.
And you can't even see Prost now, as Senna has...
But he's still going.
Opened up the interval, but yeah, Alain still has the McLaren going.
If we can hear...
Let's go to John for a quick update on this situation.
Well, it's actually a new situation, Bob. It is sprinkling down here in the pits. A little extra drama on the last lap. Back to you.
Well, that's interesting. The weather has been so beautiful here in West Germany since I arrived on Friday morning. Normally, when I've been over here, it's been very cloudy and cool and cloudy and foggy. But this year, some tremendous weather. But now, that 40% chance of rain that the weatherman predicted just before race time is beginning to show itself.
Well, I don't think it's going to affect this guy now. He'll be obviously taking it very, very carefully on this last half a lap as he exit the Ost curve and heads for home, and hopefully for him, the checkered flag. Meanwhile, his teammate Alain Prost is struggling to keep that car from being caught up and passed by Nigel Mansell's Ferrari. What a turnout that'll be for Ferrari.
So Ayrton Senna is about to break his streak of 4 non-points paying events as he is on his way to victory in the German Grand Prix. He now enters the stadium for the final time. He's just moments away from the checkered flag and the end of the very quick German Grand Prix, 45 laps at speeds at times in excess of 200 miles an hour go by quickly. And here's Senna coming off the final corner. Now he sees the checkered flag within sight, and here it is. The car doesn't appear to be at full song, but nevertheless, he crosses the stripe and wins the German Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna is the victor.
It could be, of course, that Alain Prost, had a fuel problem. He might have suddenly realized that he was going to run short of fuel.
And here is Prost crossing the line and finishing in second spot. So his car did make it to the end, although we wondered a couple of laps ago. But Prost is second. Mansell will finish in third position, and unofficially it's going to be Patrese, Piquet, and Warwick scoring points this afternoon. De Cesaris, Brundle, Martini, Alesi, Arnoux, and Cheever are also still out on the track, finishing 7th through 12th. Here is Mansell as he heads into the stadium now. What make that a Dallara? That is the De Cesaris car, and he's going to finish 7th. Cesaris will finish just outside the points, and here now is Nigel Mansell as he is about to take the checkered flag himself and finish third in the German Grand Prix. Here he is moving off the last corner. Crossing the line, Mansell finishes in third. So, Ayrton Senna is the victor, Prost is second, Nigel Mansell is third as the 37th running of the German Grand Prix is history, and we'll be back right after these messages. Car River flows through the city of Heidelberg, not too far from Hockenheimring, and our hats off to the German Tourist Bureau, who has helped make our stay here in West Germany so pleasant and unforgettable. Our Speed World coverage of the German Grand Prix has been brought to you by Acura Legend and Integra. Precision-crafted performance exclusively at your Acura dealer. By Mobil 1 Synthetic Motor Oil. Mobil 1, the winning oil at the 1989 Indy 500. By Pirelli Tires, original equipment on the world's finest automobiles. And by Ford Motorcraft. Get the peace of mind of doing it right with the right parts. Motorcraft quality parts. German Grand Prix is history, and here are the results. The winner was Ayrton Senna, his 4th victory of the 1989 season. Teammate Alain Prost finished in 2nd position. 3rd was Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari. Riccardo Patrese in the Williams was 4th. 5th went to the Lotus of Nelson Piquet, and Derek Warwick scored the final point in the Arrows in 6th position. Now let's take a look at the drivers' points for the World Championship. Alain Prost still on top with 53. Senna gained 3 on him. He has 36 now. Patrese in 3rd position with Nigel Mansell. They're tied for 3rd with 25 points. Then Terry Boutsen with 13 and Alessandro Nannini with 12 points. As far as the Constructors' Championship is concerned, McLaren still on top ahead of Williams. Ferrari 3rd, Benetton is 4th, Tyrrell 5th, and Arrows moves into the 6th position among the manufacturers. Let's take a look at the results of our Pick 6. David, you got the first 4 right, a total of 5. I also got 5 right, but the winner in our Pick 6 competition today was John Bizignano, who had all 6 correct. He only got the final 2, Piquet and Warwick, in reverse order. So, John, congratulations on winning today.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. There was no luck involved at all. It was absolutely brilliant is what it was. But actually, I think these are the same guys that were here last year, or we saw them on some beach in Brazil earlier this season. But they're certainly making some whoopee. And why? Because Alain Prost lost 6th gear. He would have taken the checkered flag over Brazilian Ayrton Senna if he would have not lost 6th gear around this very fast circuit. Some good luck that they're very happy about.
All right. Thank you, John. Nice working with you and with you, Mr. David Hobbs.
Well, as always, Bob, it's great to be with you. Some of the young lions showed their mettle today. John Alesi in particular, Maurizio Guzman, Stefano Modena, and